So, Joe, welcome back to the Rough Trade podcast.
Hey. Good to be back.
I know. I would ask you how you've been since we last saw you, but for obvious reasons, you've obviously been so busy.
Oh, you know how I've been.
Congrats on album number 6.
Thank you very much.
That is mega. Called Metronomy Forever.
Yeah.
It's out this September the 13th, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think when I had you in back in, I think it was February, around the Nights Out anniversary, you did hint there was something on the way.
Yes.
But yeah, this is awesome news. Awesome news.
It's awesome news for me as well.
I've got to admit, so when I first heard about the title of this record, I was kind of like, oh no, it sounds like a farewell album.
Yeah.
But I think since then it's fairly safe to say that it's definitely not. But would I be perhaps right in referencing the word legacy in relation to this record?
Yeah, but I guess in perhaps like not the way you might think. I don't know. I used to, so like when I was getting into music and getting into a group like the Beatles, I was I can't remember how old I was, like 12, 13, and there was that Beatles anthology was on TV, and it was like this super, I don't know, like exciting. Like if you're into music and you're into them, and then there was this huge documentary basically like making them into this thing, like 12-part series. I don't know how long it was, but like basically the idea, like they're the ultimate kind of band that have this like legacy or whatever. And I think that was something that I got really kind of obsessed by when I got into music, or the idea of it. And I thought, like, okay, so you want to have this, like, you want to leave something behind. Anyway, what I realized is that I've been around for longer than the Beatles. I've been around, like, and in fact, it's all, like, all of that stuff is so, it's kind of egotistical, It's like the idea that people will care.
Yeah.
Like in 50 years, it's just kind of like, well, like, I don't know. I think the importance that I used to place on that idea is completely, like, has just dissipated now. And I realize that, like, so now fans that we had 10 years ago in my lifetime are now like are kind of like able to say, like, oh, you really influenced me when I was young. It's like, well, that's kind of enough.
Yeah.
So no, it's the idea of like self-aggrandizing and realizing that it's like futile.
Yeah. I think you said somewhere that I've read about how putting too much importance on what you make sometimes isn't the best thing, and you should maybe just let it go.
I mean, I just think it's that, like, it's that thing. I mean, I think you have to get older to have this kind of a shift, and I think you have to have a certain sort of frame of mind. But I think recently what helped me make this record was just realizing that, like, if I'm not enjoying making it, then, like, what am I doing? Like, you know what I mean? And you can enjoy it on any number of levels, from it being like utterly superficial to being like, I'm expressing myself in some kind of important way. You know what I mean? Like, I think I just feel like it doesn't really matter on what level it's fulfilling you. Like, if it does, then that's kind of more important than the finished record in a way,
Yeah, 100%. So your last record was out in 2016.
Yeah. When
did the kind of thoughts, feelings, ideas, when did you start creating this album?
So the idea originally was that that Summer 8 would come out, we would not tour for a year, and then we'd come back doing festivals and we'd be playing new tracks from the new album. So like the idea was that would have been ready like a year after Summer 08, which it kind of was. There was a version. Yeah. But it wasn't as good as it is now. So there was that was the plan. But then I was like super wrapped up in the Robin record, which kind of took over my life. And there were changes at the record label, and there were a few kind of quite mundane changes in how it was working, and like how the label was working in other countries. And so for many reasons, it just ended up being like, okay, well, I've got more time to make the record. So I kind of started it I guess I started it in one way or another 3 years ago.
Okay.
But like
it's been a little bit of a journey then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, kind of. Although, they're really like, it was that the weird thing is that in that time, the Robin record happened. So it's like, the journey was actually kind of more condensed than that 3 years, because it was only last year that the Robin record was finally like out. So, this year, last year, end of last year. I can't remember.
I know I think it was this year.
I think it was this year.
Yeah, it was this year. It was. It's like spring.
No. I don't know.
I think it was. There was a new record today, I swear.
I think it was last year. But who knows? No one knows.
No one knows. Hopefully Robin knows.
Yes, yeah.
You mentioned that you went out and toured some of these songs. I wanted to ask about when you start playing like new songs on stage to the crowd, what's the response been? And do you, when you're looking at the record that you've made and the singles that you want to release from it, do you does the order in which you release them inform maybe the fact that you're going to be playing them live? Like lately, I imagine is obviously so much fun to play live.
Yeah. I mean, like that ended up kind of being the first single because we'd been playing it live. So that was a bit more of like a back to front thing. But my idea with that song was that it should be the first single. And it's funny because you never really realize how, like, sometimes I don't really realize how much of an input I have in in what should be singles and stuff like that. Okay. But I think I remember feeling like that lately was a kind of like a really cool song for a kind of new proper record or whatever. Yeah. And so we were playing that live, but we were playing a couple of other songs which didn't end up on the album. And so now we're doing festivals and stuff like that, and we're playing like proper tracks from the album, and they're going down really, really well. And I feel like I can see which songs will become kind of cool live moments. Yeah. And I'm never really sure like how that translates into like picking singles and stuff, because I feel like I'm not very good at picking singles, to be honest.
But I guess you get that little test run then, I suppose, before the album's out and everyone's fully aware of the songs. Kind of play around and see what works and stuff. Yeah,
it's true. And it's kind of interesting that some songs, the kind of ones which you don't, I don't know, it just takes me by surprise. Like sometimes how the tracks which I think could be kind of cool end up being like super cool live. So yeah, it's nice.
Definitely. So I wanted to ask you about this funny thing that someone said. So I had Temple. That sounded really odd. I had the band Temples in like a couple of weeks ago, and they said something.
All of them in here?
I had two of them.
Fair enough.
But I've had like bands of 5 guys in here. Yeah. Sweaty times. But they said something that really interested me, which was that when they wrote their new record, they were kind of creating the album artwork in and around the same time. And actually when the album artwork was finished and they looked at it, it kind of altered how they heard the songs on the record.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you'd ever had any experience of that, and like how big a part was the artwork for Metronomy Forever in your project?
Like I definitely, there's a time with a record, like there's a point at which, I will get a copy of the finished record and I'll like pretend I've just bought it. You know what I mean? Like I'll kind of sit there and I'll like look at the artwork and listen to it. And yeah, it's true that you kind of, it definitely changes how you think about the music, because I think for a number of reasons. One, because like suddenly it becomes like a product, and it's the same way as like if you picked up like a bottle of shampoo and you like read it and smelt it and you're like, oh. So that's kind of, that's one thing. But I think also you there's this weird moment when everything sort of kind of crumbles around you and you realize that you're the only one in the world who has such a kind of deep knowledge of everything about that product, and you're like, oh god, hang on, like someone's just going to pick this up and look at the artwork and like make a kind of judgment on it and then listen and I mean, I think I always find like it's never never do I kind of, does it feel like a negative, like never does that happen. Then you're like, oh no, like I chose the wrong picture.
Yeah.
But it is kind of, it's curious, I think.
Yeah. How much input did you have in, I'm assuming you didn't draw it.
I didn't draw it. No. There's a French girl. She's called Anne Ziem, and she's like an illustrator, and she did the illustrations. And I mean, I guess the thing, so like part of the whole Forever thing is that I wanted to do this really kind of over the top album artwork.
Yeah,
and so like when you like, it's a double album. If you get the kind of nice version, it's like a double album, and there's like a 4-panel piece of artwork on the inside. And so it was a kind of like, I had this idea about how I wanted it to be like the kind of primordial Soup and Metronomy, they're being like, we were already here.
Yeah.
And then she kind of had these lovely ideas about writing the text in lava and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's probably one of the nicest kind of collaborations that I've had for artwork. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I love it. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
And another piece de resistance for me is the video for Salted Caramel Ice Cream.
Oh yeah, cool.
Which I wanted to chat about because you were in the director's seat for this.
Yes, although I didn't actually have a seat, which I was pretty annoyed about. But
were you directing from where you were standing?
Yeah, like I guess there were bits where I was properly like able to be like act like an actual director.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously the bits where I'm in it, I wasn't. But
yeah. How did you dream up the video? Because it's kind of really simple in a sense, but it's just so watchable. I've watched it about 10 times in a row, and every time you watch it, you notice something different.
Yeah, I'm quite proud of the level of like of detail there is in that video. I mean, like the idea, I think we were rehearsing in what's it called? Coco? Is it? No, not Coco. XOYO.
Okay.
Oxo. Yoxio. And I think we went like, there were people, some directors were sending in treatments, and I'd already done the video for Walking in the Dark. You know, I think I'd already done a couple of videos, and I didn't necessarily want to do the Salted Caramel Ice Cream one, but a lot of the ideas weren't kind of right. And then I was just kind of like chatting with Oscar about it. I was like, oh yeah, you know, you could just do this video like about ice cream, like you're an ice cream seller, and then there's like some kind of Ponzi gelato place, and it was just like this kind of like a bit of like, we had this kind of brainstorm over a kebab at lunch, which isn't something I often do.
Okay.
Having a kebab at lunch, so maybe that was partly to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure actually. You're not supposed to say brainstorm either, right, anymore. Anyway, we had a meeting. We ended up chatting about it, and yeah, and then I think what you realize is like in the same way that with music, you can, like, the limit is your kind of, you set your own threshold of like of what's possible and like what's embarrassing and all that stuff with music, and I think with videos it's exactly the same thing. Like you have, if you want to be able to explain everything, then like cool, but at the same time you can just be like, you know, people are like, what, like, why is that? And it's like, well, why not?
Yeah.
like it's quite a fun thing. So I think the more we talked about it, the more the kind of ideas got kind of funnier. And I think maybe the first idea was me thinking like, I just think it'd be really kind of funny if it was about the invention of salted caramel ice cream. And I just like the idea of Oscar like mining for salt. That was, I think, the beginning idea.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because like what I mentioned in some other thing about this, there's this Rammstein video for a song called Son.
Oh, is that where
they're little dwarfs mining?
Yeah, I've seen that.
And like they've all got like kind of black coal on their faces and stuff like that, and it looks really grim. And I thought like, it'd be cool to do that like in a salt mine, but there's like flour on their faces and stuff, and it looks really like bright and nice. Yeah. So I think that was kind of the idea.
It's like the Moomin version of the Rammstein video. It's great. I love it. It is just so fun. Then you look at like the comments on YouTube. I was looking, and everyone was commenting about, oh my god, everyone's got such great haircuts, and then you want to watch it again. It's so fun. I love it.
Oh,
I love it.
Thank you.
Videos look like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's probably a good part of creating a new record.
Yeah. And I guess that's the other thing is like, it feels a bit like you know, I think for me this record feels like very important in a kind of like not in a legacy way, but it feels important in terms of like just in terms of now, like for us as a band, I think like for where we exist in like music at the moment, and it just seems like, oh well, like if you think it's really important, then you should kind of pay attention to everything and kind of have a real like, you know, like just be hyper I don't know, like binary almost, like it's like, okay, this isn't right, so like it's not happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just being very, I guess, just having a kind of knowing what you want, really.
Yeah. As a band that has a legacy and it's been around for a number of years, a number of years, do you feel the pressure to kind of put out the best of the best every time and kind of stay, for want of a better word, like relevant each time?
I think totally, yeah. I mean, I like the idea of being irrelevant.
Wow.
is like is terrifying.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, the other thing that I've been, I suppose, talking about a lot with the music, about this record is how you know, there's this thing that happens when you're starting your career and you're, I don't know, well, for me, I was like in my early 20s. Our audiences were kind of in their late teens, and so there's this kind of, you're all kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, your audiences are kind of getting older too. But you know, if everything's working well, you should always be kind of getting young people excited about what you do. You know, like to me, the game, like the game of the music game is about youth. Like that's what it's about.
Okay.
Like in terms of bands and kind of, I think like most, like, I guess like, I don't know how I would describe it, but in terms of like bands, that kind of thing, like to me, it's about young people. Like, and the only time in my life where I felt like music was the most important thing in the world, and I felt like all my heroes were like musicians, was when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? I think as you get older, you become more cynical and like. Yeah. So anyway, to me, being relevant is like a kind of priority, or at least trying, because I'm not like, you know, I don't think we necessarily are, or I necessarily am, but at least I'm trying to be relevant.
Oh, we think you are.
Well, yeah.
Which leads me nicely on to that we have a Rough Trade exclusive version of your record.
Yeah.
Which is an orange vinyl.
Yeah.
I actually think that we've sold out the pre-orders online.
Good stuff.
Which is amazing, but people who have maybe missed out will be able to get it in the shops on the day of release. So there is still a few nuggets out there. But that's really exciting. I think it's also playing some installs with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. I can't remember when, though. I think it's actually on the day of the release. I think we might be playing here.
Yes, I think, you're playing Rough Trade East on the day of release. You must have played here before.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. I was going to say. That would be criminal if not. Cool. Thank you so much. I wanted to say this. I could talk Metronomy forever, but we must go because it's sweltering.
It is quite hot.
But could you pick a track for us to play out today?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna pick "Walking in the Dark," which is kind of been out for a little while, but it's kind of my favorite still from the record.
Amazing.
Thank you,
Joe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.